Hello, my friends. I hope you're all good. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are watching this or listening to this. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple iTunes or Spotify, welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to be talking to you today. However, I'm meant to be in Vegas right now. So if there is an undertone of bitterness and resentment and frustration and anger in my voice today, please understand why, because it's been a weird week. It's been a really, really weird week. And you know, those things that happen and you're like, I know this is happening for a reason. And you're like, Jez, what is the reason though? Tell me what the reason is now. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. So it's actually weird that this is happening today, because a year ago today was actually the day that myself and Kurt both got COVID. He got it first and then I got it next. And I was due to give birth to Margot tomorrow. So if you've listened to me for a while, you'll know how that panned out. You'll know that I ended up giving birth without Kurt. He wasn't allowed at the birth. And yeah, all because of COVID. And COVID has reared its ugly head once again and ruined my plans once again. So at the beginning of last week, I got really, really ill. I tested for COVID, but it kept coming up with negative. But since then, all of my family have got COVID. So I'm pretty sure it was COVID. I was like really achy, cold and flu symptoms, all the above. We know the symptoms now. Anyway, so I was really ill for a week, really chesty cough. And then randomly the other day, a few days ago, Frankie just started throwing up out of nowhere. And by the way, kids throwing up is so different to adults throwing up. Like kids throwing up, it comes out of nowhere. You know how like when adults are sick, you have the whole build up to it. Like you see them go a little bit queasy and then they're like, oh, as they're like running to the loo, and you know that it's about to happen. You know that something is about to go down. When kids are sick, it literally just comes out of nowhere. They're just literally happy, sitting, playing, and then throwing up. It's gross. So anyway, Frankie had a sickness bug and was literally throwing up all over the house, over every single soft furnishing that I have in my house. And we thought maybe he might have eaten something. Then the next morning, Margot got the same. Margot started throwing up everywhere. I think baby sick is probably worse than toddler sick as well, because it's just projectile. But anyway, so she started throwing up everywhere. And this was literally the 2 days before I was due to go to Vegas, meant to go to Vegas on a work trip. And then the next day I started throwing up everywhere and I became really, really unwell. And I think because I wasn't well anyway, that on top of it just completely floored me. And I just literally couldn't get out of bed. I just was like completely floored. I've never, ever felt that ill in my life. And basically this was the day before I was due to fly to Vegas. And the next day I just wasn't fit. I just couldn't fly. I literally didn't even think I could get to the airport. And obviously on top of that, the fact that I was so contagious and so many elements of it. And I had to cancel my trip, which is so sad because I've got so many of my team over in Vegas and it's like this massive thing. And I was meant to walk the stage and be recognized in front of 16,000 people. So much stuff was going on and I've missed out on so much stuff. And I was just so, so sad. But it is what it is. So I'm here now. There's a whole reason for it, I'm sure. I don't know what the reason is yet, but I'm here. But there is a reason for it. And that is, I think, to give you the content of my podcast today. And it really did teach me. It has taught me some lessons, as it always does. And when I was in that moment of like laying in bed, cancelling my flight, feeling horrendous, like, honestly, I've never felt like that before. I've never, ever felt as ill as I felt. And I'm like, I remember Kurt coming into me and he was like, how are you feeling, babe? And I said, my bones hurt, like my bones and my organs hurt. And he was like, is that like a phrase? Like, is that like a phrase? Like when I go to bed, I always say, I love you. What do I say? I love all the bones of you. And he was like, is that like a phrase that you say? And I was like, no, honestly, my bones hurt. And I've never, ever felt that ill ever before. And I felt so powerless and I felt like all of this stuff was happening around me. On top of that, I opened the post and got £100 parking fine because I went and worked in Starbucks for 2 hours and 18 minutes. And apparently there's a 2-hour max there. Who knew? So I got this parking fine and I just felt like a victim. Honestly, I felt like all of this stuff was happening to me. I felt like a victim and I felt like I had no power. And the thing is, you always have power. I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling of things happening to me and me having no control over it. But the truth is, you do have control over it and you can change that state at any point. So I decided to think, okay, let's take the power back on this. Let's take control back. What part did I play in this? Like, what was my role in this happening? This isn't all completely outside of me. I am responsible for a part of this. So what part of this situation am I responsible for? And for me, it actually was quite clear. So ever since I was a child, I have always pushed boundaries. I will push stuff as far as I can get away with. And that's in all areas. So I would push, say, for example, I would be at work. I hated going to work. I would maybe show up 1 minute late one day to work and get away with it. And then I'd push it and be like, okay, I'm going to go 2 minutes late. Okay, 3 minutes late. And then I'd keep pushing it to see how late I could get before I got in trouble. And I would do that with loads of stuff. I'd push back things like completing things like homework and stuff until I could get away with it, you know, and not get in trouble. And so many areas of my life, I'm like that. I will push. And in some areas of my life, it serves me really, really well. So in business and goals, it serves me really, really well because I will keep pushing myself, pushing my limits until I hit my goals, until I, you know, get what I want. And in that sense, it's a really positive trait of mine. In other senses, it gets me in trouble and I shouldn't do it, but I just literally will, or I'm not very like risk averse. I don't think of the risk of things. I just go for it. And then I'm like, well, we'll figure out the consequences when we get there. And that is quite a common, you know, phrase for me really, to be like, well, we'll figure it out when we get there. I just don't like preempting stuff. And what I realized is that although this can be a great thing in business, this pushing boundaries and pushing myself and pushing my limits, and it can often get me what I want in terms of, pushing my boundaries with other people, I realized I've been doing that with my health. And I've been pushing the boundaries of my health or lack of health for a really long time now. And I've just been neglecting myself completely. I've been eating loads of sugar. I've been drinking fizzy drinks. I've been not sleeping properly. I've been not working out. I've been eating loads of beige crap food. I've not been eating enough veg. I've not been drinking enough water. And I know all of these things. Like, I've worked in a health and wellness business for almost 10 years now. I know exactly what I need to do to be healthy, but still I've been pushing my own limits to see how far I get before something bad happens. And I'm like, oh, I'll figure it out when I get there. And that's not a conscious thought. It's not like I'm just going to wait and see how ill I can get. It's a subconscious thought, but it's just, there's so many parts of it. Like, when I think about why I do that and why I'm fully aware that I'm causing damage to myself by not looking after myself in the proper way, I still do it. So I'm like, why do I do that? Why am I doing this? And there's elements of it, you know, maybe an element of it is like an upper limit thing, that every part of my life is amazing. You know, my kids, my family, my businesses, my everything. I'm so happy. Maybe it's this upper limit thing where you almost self-sabotage a part of it because to have everything thriving would feel uncomfortable. There's definitely a part of that, I'm sure. There's definitely a part of it that's neglect and just literally not even thinking about it. Like, there are so many things at the moment, I'm ashamed to say, that I put as a priority above my health. You know, my kids, my business, my home life, my relationship, my, you know, trying to, you know what it's like, you know what it's like when you're busy, you're trying to just keep everything afloat, and everything seems to be becoming a higher priority for me than taking time to cook a really good, nutritious meal for myself. I'm just lazy. And I don't think anyone would probably ever call me lazy in any other aspect of my life. But when it comes to my health, I'm so lazy. I just eat. If I'm hungry, I'll have a bit of toast, literally just to curb the hunger. And I don't prepare nice food. I don't even think about it. And it's laziness, it's neglect. There's so many different elements of it. And what I realize is that I have played a part in me not being in Vegas. It's essentially my fault. And this is because I haven't looked after myself. If I had been looking after myself, if I'd have been building up my immune system, and if I'd have been looking after my health, I probably could have fought this a lot better. I probably could have, whatever it was that I got last week, whether it was COVID or whatever, it wouldn't have lasted as long as it lasted. If I had have had the stomach bug, I could have fought it a lot quicker. But instead, I was completely wiped out. There was nothing left in me. And the reason why is because I have been living in a place with no reserves. I've been living in my reserve tank. I've been living in that red tank of, petrol. When you hit the red and you're in there, that's where I've been living. And I've just been doing enough to get by, but I certainly have not been filling up my tank and looking after myself and making sure that I've got more than enough to be able to fight. And that was like a real eye-opener for me. I thought, if anything, God forbid, did happen to me, if I did get something really bad and I had to fight, my body had to fight it off, I don't have anything in me. I don't have any reserves because I've been living in my reserves. I've got nothing in me that could fight off anything really, really bad. And that was a real big eye-opener for me. And I just thought, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, Carly? Why are you living like this? This is irresponsible. It's ridiculous. And I know that you might think sometimes that other things are more important, like keeping the house tidy or doing these things. It's not more important than your health. And this was the kind of thoughts I was having in my head. And I was thinking, this is your fault. Like, because you haven't looked after yourself, you are not on that flight to Vegas. That's why, because you haven't looked after yourself and you just let yourself get to this place where you've got nothing left to give. And it was empowering to kind of take control back of the situation again. It was also a massive eye-opener. And, I'm almost grateful that it's happened now. And it was just a stomach bug that I had, and it wasn't something worse. But it just was a big wake up call. And it just, that question of like, or that statement of like, wake the fuck up, Carly. Like, what are you doing? Take control of this situation. And the reason why I wanted to come in here and tell you about that is that this is actually the same for lots of other areas, lots of aspects of life. I feel like people are neglecting themselves or neglecting areas of their life. They're in denial that they're actually on a downward spiral in a certain area. And they're just not taking responsibility, and they're just sitting back and thinking all these things are happening to me, but not asking yourself, what part am I playing in this? And I see this happening a lot in the business world, and like with financial stuff. Obviously, we're about to hit a tough economical time. Like, there's no secret that we're not going into the most, abundant time of life right now, in terms of the economy. But I hear lots of people talking about, oh no, I'm going to have to cut back on this. I'm going to have to cut back on this. I'm going to have to cut back on this. And the truth is like, if you don't do something now, if you don't start filling up your cup and doing things and putting things in place to build up your reserves and get yourself to that solid, stable level, you are going to get hit, and you are going to suffer, and you are going to have to go without, and you are going to have to, cut back on stuff because you haven't been putting things in place to make more. And the way I kind of see these things, when everyone's talking about doom and gloom and like recessions coming and stuff like that, is that you can either look at that situation and think, what can I cut back on? Or right now you can think, I'm going to prepare myself in a way where I can't be touched. So I'm going to create multiple income streams. I'm going to add, more things. I'm going to be smarter about my investments. I'm going to, learn more about money and how to manage it properly so that I can't be hit, so that I've got something to give. I've got that fight in me. And that's how I'm feeling right now. Like in terms of my health, I feel like I need to fill myself up so that I have something to fight with. And that's what we need to think about our life. We can't just You can't stay in a place. If right now you are living to the breadline, and I fully get it, like cost of living has gone up and it's a crazy time. If you are living on the breadline right now and your income is just about sustaining your lifestyle and it's just about paying the bills, but every single month you feel like you're playing catch up, you are living in the reserves right now. And when those tough times do hit, you've got nothing extra to give. So the only option is to like cut back. So right now, think about how you can build up that fight in you. How can you build that layer around you that's like, you can't touch me because I've got all of these things in place and I'm rock solid. And yeah, it's been a big eye opener. I'm annoyed at myself. I'm frustrated with myself. But I'm really grateful for the lessons because it could have been so much worse. And our health is everything, isn't it? Like, it's just lazy. Like, not having time is not a good enough excuse. And what I'm going to do about this now. So if you're listening to this, and this has hopefully been a little wake up call for you as well, and you've thought, oh God, I've been neglecting my own health, or I've been been talking about adding in all these income streams, but I'm not doing anything to change my financial situation. Or maybe you've been talking about showing up online, but you're still not doing it. And if you've got these things that you keep talking about, now is the time to really get them in place and stop living in denial that something is going to be different. If you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same thing, or worse, it's just going to go on a downward spiral. So take some time today and really start putting some steps in place to make some changes. So what I'm going to do today is I'm not going to do what I would normally do, where I have a little wake up call and then I'm like, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to do everything, I'm going to just completely transform my life. It's not sustainable. I don't have the time to do something like that right now. So I need to put in habits in place. So I've gone back to having my green shot. I've had my immunity boost. I've had a big bottle of water. I walked and dropped off the kids this morning to the childminder, and I'm going to walk again and pick them up later, whereas I normally would just hop in the car. I'm going to go and I'm going to go to the gym now, but do something like a really, really light workout and just actually look after myself, because I never, ever want to feel that ill again and that helpless and that powerless because my health has let me down. It was just a really shit place to be honest. And I don't want that for anyone else either. So whether it's your health, whether it's your finances, whatever it is today, take back some control, stop being in denial, and start making some changes, and just wake the fuck up, because no one is coming to save you. You can only come and save yourself. And if you feel like you're also in that place where stuff is happening to you and you feel like a victim and you feel powerless to your situation, ask yourself, what part did I play in this? Can you take some responsibility for the situation that you're in? Because I know that you can. Everything that happens to us, good or bad, however hard this is to hear, you play a part in, you are responsible for in some sense. So find out what that is, and then you can work on that. So thank you so much. I hope you found this helpful. If you love this episode, please take a screenshot and add it onto your Instagram, tag me at Carly Myers Life. I would actually really love to know if this is like given someone a bit of a wake up call. I really hope it has. I know sometimes it's a bit tough love to hear, and you may be like, oh, she's on one today, that's a bit harsh, but I don't want you to be in that situation that I was. And I think it's time that we all just, took back control a little bit. So thank you so much. I can't wait to see you soon. And I'll come back next week with a fabulous, probably more positive and productive episode. But today I just need to get that little rant out to you. All right, guys, I love you lots. Have a wonderful week. Bye.